Number 10. The Cartel Wife. Camila Moroden was arrested in the Brazilian coastal town of Matinos in November of 2021. She was arrested for playing a part in the vicious assassination of her husband, Ricardo Moroden. What makes everything even more tragic and disturbing is the assassination took place during their son's birthday party. Camila is an online model and fashion influencer. Her husband, Ricardo, was believed by local police to be the leader of a dangerous drug cartel. But this proved not to be the case. Cops now believe it was actually the wife, Camila, who was in charge of the entire cartel. They're now trying to bring her up on 3 murder charges, 1 for her husband and 2 more for a pair of cops who were murdered. Camila's capture was part of a military police operation in which they arrested 14 other members of the cartel. They moved in on her house and delivered the arrest warrant, only to discover she wasn't there. But she wasn't that hard to track down. Police caught her as she tried to escape and hide out at her mother's house. Camila herself didn't pull the trigger. It was members of the criminal gang she was in charge of. 4 armed suspects showed up to her son's birthday celebration and executed her husband in front of the partygoers. They used the same vehicle that was involved in the assassination of the 2 cops just days before. But the true reason why she orchestrated such a brutal killing is still under investigation. Maybe she just wanted all the money and power for herself. Number 9. Oops. In January 2021, Lenora A. from Sonora, Mexico found explicit images on her husband Juan's phone. The graphic pictures showed him having sex with another woman. Lenora was not one to hold back on her anger. She thought she had caught him cheating on her red-handed. The evidence was more than enough to prove his guilt, right? In a fit of rage, she went ballistic and ended up stabbing him multiple times in the arms and legs. If Lenora would have stopped to think for a minute, she could have avoided this grave mistake. Juan fortunately managed to snatch the knife from her. He had no clue about what set her off. When she pointed at those pictures, Juan told her that the images were actually of her and from their early days. According to the police report, Lenora could not identify herself because she was younger, thinner, and had makeup on. Juan had found the images in an old email and had transferred those to his phone recently, and that is what Lenora stumbled upon. She was arrested after the incident, and her charges are yet to be filed. Number 8. Stealing a cop car. How far would you go for your partner? Well, for this Alaskan couple, there's no line that can't be crossed. 38-year-old Joshua Watford got arrested for skipping his court-mandated classes after previously being convicted of drunk driving. After he was put in the back of the patrol car, the arresting officer was stopped by a passing motorist, who struck up a conversation with the officer. And it was while the officer was distracted that 28-year-old Amber Watford, Joshua's wife, saw the window of opportunity and got the wise idea to get behind the wheel of the cop car. She snuck in and drove off with her husband, handcuffed inside. The vehicle was found abandoned on the side of the road an hour later. The couple drove to Wasilla and decided to rest at a house in the town there. It obviously didn't take long for the cops to find the car. What started as an escape plan for Joshua soon became a foolproof way to land the husband and wife in jail. Number 7. Guilty. In May 2021, a booze-fueled sexcapade in Rio de Janeiro turned into a gore-filled mess. I guess that's what happens when you get alcohol, drugs, money, and escorts involved. Brazilian singer MC Kevin and his friend Victor Fontanelle were spending the evening with 26-year-old Bianca Dominguez. Kevin and Victor were enjoying drinks at the beach. The two had also been taking drugs when model and escort Bianca met them. The three spoke for a while and agreed on having a little fun at Kevin's hotel room nearby. Both Kevin and Victor paid Bianca money up front. They all went back to the room, but Kevin got paranoid that his wife, 33-year-old Deolance Becerra, would find out. And he was right to feel this way, because suddenly there was a knock on the door and he could hear his wife telling him to let her in. Kevin did not want to get caught. Confused and scared of what was to follow, it seemed like a better idea to just try and escape the situation that would undoubtedly be messy and dramatic. At this point, Kevin was way past the point of intoxication and obviously wasn't thinking clearly. His room was on the 5th floor, and probably his initial idea was to just jump 1 floor down onto the balcony just below him and hide. According to Bianca and Victor's statements, he jumped from the balcony without really thinking it through. Kevin fell from a height of 49 feet or about 15 meters and hit the pool bar sunshade. He then bounced off the railing of the pool and landed on the ground. When investigators and his wife reached the hotel room, the entire place was a mess. Condoms and liquor bottles were scattered everywhere, but there was no sign of foul play. The guilt and fear that came with cheating on his wife ultimately took Kevin's life. Number 6. Eye dropped. 53-year-old Lana Sue Clayton was a former Veterans Affairs nurse. In 2020, she was sentenced to 25 years in prison for killing her husband. Lana Sue was suffering from PTSD due to domestic violence, or at least that was the reason she claimed for why she did what she did. She decided to put her misery to rest and make her husband suffer. She said that she had only intended to make him uncomfortable, she didn't mean to kill him. Her husband, 64-year-old Stephen D. Clayton, died at their home in Clover, South Carolina. Cause of death? Poison. But Lana didn't administer him cyanide or any other deadly drugs that you might have heard of. Her weapon of choice was Visine, a common non-prescription eye drop medication. Visine contains a chemical compound that is known to constrict blood vessels, and ingesting it in large amounts can lead to death. She spiked Stephen's drinks with eye drops. According to her statement, she had initially set out to give him only one dose of the medicine, but she changed her mind and slipped the drops in for 3 days in a row. This ended up killing him, and she was given 25 years in prison. If Lana Sue really was abused by her husband, do you think what she did is justified? Tell us your thoughts in the comments and hit that subscribe button while you're at it. Number 5. The Plan. In 2012, after a bitter divorce, 35-year-old Audrey Dosty from Jacksonville, Florida was in desperate need to reach out to her husband, but she couldn't just drive to his house or pick up the phone and call him. Dosty's situation was a bit more complicated. Her ex-husband had filed a restraining order against her, stating that she had been physically abusive in their relationship. With no other way to talk to him, Dosty came up with a plan. Instead of figuring out a simple and civil way to reach out, she included the Florida courthouse in her heartbreak as well. When the staff of the courthouse arrived at the premises the next morning, they were shocked to find graffiti of broken hearts all over the pillars and walls of the $350 million property. Dosty had managed to deface almost all of the exterior walls of the courthouse with hearts and initials. She even spray-painted messages on the pathway for her husband. One such message read, "Free us." Now, we didn't say it was a good plan. The courthouse wasn't the only place she had vandalized. Audrey even defaced the offices of her husband's family-owned company called Dosty Homes. An officer caught her still holding a can of spray paint, and she was charged with criminal mischief, and was also sent for a thorough mental health evaluation. Number 4. Sugary death. In July 2020, a woman from the United Kingdom was sentenced to life in prison for killing her husband, and how she did it will shock you. 59-year-old Karina Smith was married to 81-year-old Michael Baines. On the day of the murder, many witnesses revealed that she had been angry with Baines all through the day. Later, it came to light that Smith's daughter revealed a dark secret about her husband. Baines was a sexual predator and had forced Karina's daughter to do unspeakable things. This sparked a rage in Karina that could not be calmed. Though she was angry, she didn't utter a word about it to Baines. The next day, she took a bucket to her garden and filled it up with water. Smith then added 3 bags of sugar to it and put it onto a boil. Baines was still asleep when she was preparing his death trap in the kitchen. She then took the bucket of boiling water and poured it all over her husband. When you mix sugar with boiling water, it sinks into the skin even better and causes more harm. Smith then coolly walked to her neighbor's house and said, "I've hurt him really bad. I think I've killed him." When the police arrived, Baines was in his bed seething in pain. 36% of his body was covered in burns. He died a month later in the hospital. Number 3. Fine and punishment. In 2015, a Saudi woman found a creative way to seek revenge on her unworthy husband. The woman's husband was marrying a second time, and she was not happy about not being his only wife. So, to punish him, she took his pickup truck and gave it to her brother. The plan was to make as many traffic violations as possible. The brother and sister chose to drive through red lights where license plates would clearly be visible to traffic cameras. And that's not all. They even put the car in reverse and backed over multiple stop signs. The duo spent the entire evening jumping signals, breaking as many rules as they could to register a high fine under Saudi's traffic system. At the end of the evening, the tally was up to $80,000. Number 2. New girlfriend. 32-year-old Chelsea Watros Cook was a health and yoga instructor living in Utah. To everyone that knew her, she seemed to live a pretty normal and happy life. No one knew how much hate she had brewing inside of her after she and her husband separated. No one expected her to take it out on his new girlfriend, and no one expected her to be a murderer. On November 25, 2018, Chelsea went to her ex-husband's apartment where he was living with his 26-year-old girlfriend Lisa Williams. Their children were also in the house when the incident happened. Chelsea had gone to drop off some medicine for the kids, but she was lingering around the house. Lisa asked her to leave, but Chelsea refused to go. The ex-husband was in the parking lot when this happened. Lisa called 911, but not soon enough. Chelsea had a handgun hidden in her coat. Her hatred for her ex and Lisa was too much for her to handle. She fired 3 rounds at Lisa before her husband ran inside, tackling her and taking the gun away, but it was too late. When he desperately tried to stop the blood flow and give Lisa first aid, Chelsea walked over to her 3-year-old twins and sat on the recliner watching them, coldly, as if nothing had happened. Her ex made sure that she would not leave the premises by pinning her against the wall. Fortunately, the police arrived before she could make any other move and arrested her for aggravated murder. She was sentenced to 34 years behind bars after being found guilty of multiple charges, including domestic violence, misdemeanor possession and use of firearms, and the act of violence in front of children. Number 1. Ex-husband sale. A woman from Superior, Wisconsin celebrated her divorce in 2012 with an ex-husband sale. She arranged a yard sale in front of her house to get rid of all of her ex-husband's belongings. She also put up signs to make sure that the people knew about the divorce. Their relationship might not have been good, but the people who were at the yard sale did benefit from it. Wondering how? All the clothes and belongings were given away for free. Her little celebration event caused a traffic jam, because next to all those piled up things, she had displayed her ex-husband's car. The GMC Yukon SUV had flat tires and the word cheater carved onto it. The car also had many other obscene words spray painted onto its sides. The traffic jam finally got the attention of police, and they had to intervene. She moved the car, but the piles of clothes and yard sale signs were still in place. A neighbor revealed that the woman had filed for divorce a year ago, and now that it was finalized, she and a few of her friends decided to have a little fun while cleaning out the house. So the next time you want to clear out your ex's junk, let us remind you that there are websites that will help you do exactly that. And guess what? You could also make yourself some money from it. Thanks for watching. What did you think of these housewives gone wrong? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more videos like these. See you next time on The Bad Badger.